Have you ever wondered what it's like to be completely alone, with nothing but the ocean, a light that shouldn't be on, and the feeling that you're not the first to stand watch? This is The Last Lightkeeper, a first-person horror tale where isolation becomes possession, and the sea never forgets. If you enjoy immersive horror stories like this, make sure to like the video and let me know in the comments what scared you most. I didn't take the job because I was brave. Hell, I didn't even take it because I needed the money. I took it because I was done. Done with the noise, the deadlines, the grief. My wife had just passed, a slow, stupid kind of death that eats your time before your heart, and I needed to be anywhere but where her memory lingered. So when an email pinged in my inbox with the subject line, "Temporary posting, Lighthouse maintenance, WYRM Coast Sector, Maine Department of Maritime Preservation," I clicked accept like I was taking communion. WYRM rock isn't on most maps. It's a 6-acre bump of jagged stone and stubborn moss, about 20 miles offshore. The lighthouse perched on its highest point like a skeletal finger, all wrought iron and salt-stained glass. Decommissioned since 1998, I was told. But someone still had to check the structural integrity, make sure vandals hadn't made it their hideout, and log any unusual maritime traffic. Standard bureaucratic ghost hunting. The old man who ferried me out wouldn't dock. Said something about the tide being wrong. Bull. The sea was flat as glass. But he tossed my duffel onto the landing like it was cursed and left me with a muttered, "Don't stay past the moon's third night." That's when the light remembers. At the time, I thought he was just drunk. The quarters were basic. One cot, one table, one stove that needed a match and a prayer. A cracked mirror over a rusty sink. The whole place smelled like mold and metal, like it had been holding its breath for too long. The logbook sat waiting on the table, bound in leather and stained in places I didn't look at too closely. March 3rd, 2023. Arrived at 1340. Weather clear, wind light. No immediate structural concerns. Radio functioning. We'll check tower tomorrow. That was my first entry. I wrote it like I believed I'd be back home in 3 weeks with a few stories and a decent tan. A little salt in the lungs, sure, but nothing worse. That night, I heard the first horn. Low, deep, far off, not mechanical. It sounded like a ship's horn, but older, organic. It carried through the walls and rattled the dishes in the cupboard. I checked the radio. Dead silence. No distress calls. No chatter from the mainland. Nothing. I chalked it up to wind. Day 2. I climbed the tower. The iron stairs groaned underfoot. Dust and flakes of rust falling in lazy spirals as I ascended. The lantern room was gutted. The Fresnel lens was gone. Just the metal housing left behind like an eye socket without its eye. But the room wasn't empty. Someone, or something, had drawn patterns in chalk on the floor. Circles nested inside each other, with markings that looked vaguely nautical. Not letters, not runes. More like currents. I rubbed a boot across one of them. The chalk smeared, and the room suddenly felt 2 degrees colder. That night, the horn sounded again. Closer this time. I didn't sleep. By day 3, I was beginning to feel unmoored. Time wasn't lining up the way it should. I'd look at my watch, and it would say 2:15. I'd go make a cup of coffee, glance back, and it'd be 4:07. But the sun hadn't moved. Shadows stayed stubbornly fixed in place, like the island didn't care about rotation anymore. That's when I started reading the logbook. Not just my entries, the old ones. The last recorded keeper was a man named Ellis Dreer. He served in 1997, just before the place was shut down. His entries began rationally: weather reports, shipping lane observations, maintenance notes. Then came this. June 18th. The fog came in again last night. Not natural. No dew on the windows. Smells like salt and teeth. Lights in the water. One of them blinked at me. I closed the book, laughed, called him crazy out loud. But I didn't laugh the next morning when I saw the same lights, tiny, flickering orbs, bobbing just beneath the surface near the rocky shoreline. They pulsed, like they were breathing. I stayed inside the rest of the day. On the 5th day, it rained, but only on the west side of the island. Not a sprinkle. A storm. Thunder cracked overhead, but only in half the sky. I walked 20 feet east, and the sun was shining. The line between light and storm was razor sharp, like someone had split the weather with a cleaver. The fog rolled in that night. Thick, slow, deliberate. It didn't settle in from the sea. It rose from the island itself, seeping out from the crags and cracks like breath from a mouth. That was the first night I heard the whispering. It came from the base of the tower, and it said my name. The whispering came from below, not the tower steps. Below the stone, as if the rock itself had hollow lungs and knew my name. I didn't go down to check. Not then. I'm not that stupid. Instead, I barricaded the lighthouse door with the table and sat in the corner with the radio in one hand and a wrench in the other. I stayed awake all night, eyes on the window, watching the fog press against the glass like it wanted in. And in that haze, I saw shapes, not people, not ships, not anything I could name. They didn't move like things that should move on water. Long, dragging shadows, shifting in unnatural geometry, like they were made from too many joints. And every so often, one of them would pause and turn. I say turn, but what I mean is it angled itself toward me, as if it knew I was watching. By morning, the fog had lifted, but the air felt heavier, like the island had grown older overnight, or maybe it was just me. The radio crackled to life at 10:13 a.m. I nearly jumped out of my skin. For the first time in 6 days, anything spoke back, but it wasn't English, not French, not static, not even Morse. It was wet. That's the only way I can describe it. A gurgling cadence, like something speaking through a mouthful of seawater. I tried to respond. Station Echo 3 reporting from WIRM Rock. Who is this? Repeat. Who is this? But the gurgling only grew louder, more urgent, like I'd offended it by answering. Then the voice stopped, and the horn sounded again, much closer. Too close. I ran outside and scanned the water. There was no ship, but the lighthouse light, which should have been dead for decades, was turning. Slowly, silently, a full rotation, like it was searching, and when it passed over me, I swear to God it blinked. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I went back to Ellistrier's entries, desperate for context, for logic, hell, even for comfort. June 21st. Time does not pass here. It peels, like old paint, layers beneath layers. Yesterday came back and tried to open the cellar door. June 23rd. The mirror no longer shows me. It shows something wearing me. June 25th. If the fog speaks your name 3 times, it already owns you. I flipped the pages in a frenzy, chasing the spiral downward. His final entry. July 3rd. I turned on the light. I turned on the light. I turned on the light. It saw me back. After that, nothing. Just blank pages. Except, not quite. The last page had something scratched in, etched into the leather itself. The light keeps. I didn't sleep that night either. I couldn't. Because now, When I looked in the mirror, the reflection didn't match. Not quite. A delay. A slight tilt of the head in the wrong direction. It smiled when I didn't. I covered the mirror with a towel. It was smiling under the towel. I don't remember walking to the cliff. I just remember waking up there, barefoot, in my nightclothes, toes curled over the edge. The sea below wasn't crashing. It was still, perfectly flat. A black mirror stretching out forever. I turned around, and the lighthouse tower looked wrong. Taller, curved, like it had grown a spine and wanted to stand straighter. The light at its top was spinning again, though I'd never fixed it. I'd never touched it. That's when I realized the lighthouse wasn't built here. It grew here. It wasn't man-made. Not entirely. Maybe once, but not anymore. This place didn't belong to the sea. The sea belonged to this place. I don't dream anymore. Not real dreams. Only one. The same, over and over again. I'm underwater, but I'm not drowning. I'm kneeling at the base of a great pillar that pulses with bioluminescent veins. Around me, others kneel too, men, women, things in sailors' garb and diving suits, some with barnacles where their faces should be. We kneel. We hum. We glow. Above us, something massive stirs. Not with movement, but with intention. It doesn't need to move. It is. Its size makes you understand how a soul can shatter just by trying to comprehend a shape. I woke up choking on seawater. In my cot, which was soaked, but the room was dry. Only the bed was wet. I tried to break the mirror. I tried, smashed it with the wrench. It shattered, but when I looked again, it was whole. Not new, whole. And the version of me inside, it was no longer waiting. It was watching. That night, it waved at me. I waved back. I don't know why. There are days now I can't remember my name. Not just forget it, not recognize it. Like someone else wore it once and left it in the pocket of a coat I no longer own. But I remember the light. It pulses behind my eyes when I close them. A rhythm. A call. I tried to write it down once. The pattern. I think it might be language. Or a map. Or maybe a door. The lighthouse is changing. No, I'm changing. There was a hatch beneath the tower. I hadn't noticed it before, probably because it wasn't there. The wood was too clean, untouched by salt or time. Like someone or something had installed it recently. I opened it. The stairs beneath were stone, slick and spiral, leading far deeper than the island should allow. I descended with my flashlight, counting each step. I lost count at 50. Then again at 200. Eventually, I came to a chamber. Circular. Seamless. The walls pulsed with faint light, veins of green and gold flickering in patterns that reminded me of constellations I'd never seen. I in the center. A pool, black and still. But when I looked into it, I saw the sky, not our sky. Something else. Purple clouds twisted in on themselves. Stars that pulsed in unfamiliar rhythms. And something far above moved. I don't know how long I watched. I don't remember climbing back up. But I woke up in the keeper's quarters with wet clothes and blood in my nose. The mirror was gone. The old man's words came back to me then. Don't stay past the moon's third night. That's when the light remembers. I hadn't marked the days. I didn't need to. I knew, because the light had begun turning every night now. Steady, mechanical, purposeful, but it didn't illuminate anything. No beams across the sea. No sweeping safety for sailors. It turned inward, casting light not across the ocean, but into the tower, into me. I could feel it brushing the inside of my skull, looking for soft spots. That night, I dreamed again, but I wasn't underwater. I was inside the lens, floating in glass and brass, suspended in the machinery of some vast optical organ. The lens blinked, and I blinked with it. I awoke with the taste of salt and glass dust in my mouth. The horn blasted again, but this time I didn't hear it. I felt it in my ribs, my teeth, my bones, like my skeleton was being used as a tuning fork. And with it came the fog, so dense now that it crawled under the door like smoke. I sealed every crack, every window, but it found me. I watched it fill the room, and when it reached me, it whispered again, not in English, not in anything human, but I understood. The light does not warn. The light selects. I laughed until I cried, because I finally understood what Elistrier meant. We're not here to keep the light. We're here to feed it. I found the photographs hidden in a rusted tin behind the fireplace. Old, faded, different eras, different faces, all of them staring just off camera, all of them gaunt, all of them alone. One of them was labeled Dreer, 1997, but the date was wrong because the same man appeared in a photo from 1964 and 1932 and 1881. Same face, same eyes, just a little more hollow each time. In the last photo, he wasn't hollow. He was missing entirely, just the lighthouse behind him, with the light on, and no shadow. On the 10th night, I saw a ship, real, rusted, enormous, silent. It drifted near the island without sound or wake. I ran outside with the flare gun, screaming, waving, begging. A single figure stood on its deck, tall, thin, pale. It raised a hand, not in greeting. In warning. Then the ship turned, not away, but downward, and sank without a ripple, just slipped beneath the water like it had never existed. That was the night I stopped asking to be saved, because I wasn't lost. I was being kept. The island no longer has edges. I walk in one direction for hours and return to the same spot. I mark trees with a knife, only to find the same mark reappearing elsewhere, as though it spreads. I have not seen the sun in 4 days. Not truly. There is a dull, endless twilight now. Like the light is afraid to fully arrive. I think the sea knows I am ready. It came just after midnight. A knock on the lighthouse door, slow, wet, like fingers made of rope and muscle, not forceful, just patient. I didn't answer. Of course I didn't. I just sat at the base of the tower with my back against the stone, holding the old radio like a rosary, hoping, idiotically, that it might offer something. A sound. A voice. It did. At 12:07 a.m. It crackled on. Not static this time. My voice. You'll open the door eventually. You just want to be asked. I held my breath. It continued. The sea was never calling. The sea was remembering. Another knock. Slower, almost affectionate. And so do you. Then the voice stopped, but the knocking didn't until I blacked out. When I woke, the door was open, the table pushed aside. Footprints, slick with brine, led down the spiral stairs into the cellar. I followed them. Why lie? Why pretend I hesitated? Curiosity was never the right word. This wasn't curiosity. This was obligation, the kind that feels old, inherited, like gravity, down the stairs, deeper than before. The air grew warmer, thicker, alive. At the bottom, the chamber was larger, vast, cathedral-like, and in the center, no longer just a pool, a well, glowing from within, no longer black, no longer still. It churned just slightly, like a sleeping thing breathing in its sleep. And around the well stood others, not people, not anymore. They wore the tattered shapes of men, of women, lightkeepers long gone. Their eyes were silver, their skin sea glass smooth, their hands webbed and folded in prayer, and when they saw me, they smiled. Not cruelly, not kindly, like family does when you finally come home. Then they stepped aside, and I walked to the edge. The well whispered in no voice, no language. But I understood why no one came back, why no ships docked, why the lighthouse's purpose was never to warn .it, was to invite .to shine out, not for the living, but for them, for the things beneath the sea that forgot how to dream. The lighthouse feeds on stories, on souls, on memory, and when we are emptied, when we are ready. I looked down into the well and saw myself, not my reflection. Me, already in the water, already submerged, smiling, waiting, and I understood something else. You never jump. You are chosen. The well reaches up and pulls you down. I don't remember the rest. I only remember waking in the tower, behind the lens. The world below was gone, just ocean now. Endless and gleaming. No birds, no wind, just the light turning, and me turning with it. The tower breathes with me now. Its rhythm is mine, its memory, mine. I am not alone. I see the others sometimes, in the glass, in the stairs, in the reflections that linger a moment too long. We don't speak. We don't need to. We are the keepers. We are the light. If you're hearing this, you came too close. You saw the light spinning when it shouldn't have. You wondered why no one answers the radio. You thought maybe there was a story here, something you could tell your friends. You were right. There is a story, but it's not yours to tell. Not yet. The light is watching you now. It knows your name, that it's already whispering. And if you feel a pull, don't resist. That's not fear, that's recognition. The sea remembers, the lighthouse keeps, and the last lightkeeper is never the last for long.